why don't we start by telling me a little history about Lapostolle?
So, Alexandra,
So
please.
the name is part of my family name, and it's my great grandfather, Alexandra Marnier, get married to Lapostolle, and then he added the name of Lapostolle to his name by law. So you see, he was very
He
in
loved his wife.
advance.
He loved his wife very much. Eventually.
Very unusual to do that in France at the end of the 20th century. Very unusual. The origin of the family is in Sancerre, in the Loire Valley. And we were wine growers and wine merchants in the Sancerre area. And we owned the Chateau de Sancerre. And then we also produced, my great-grandfather created Grand Marnier, the liquor. And so we went to Chile with my husband in 1993, started to visit a lot of vineyards, and found in love with one specific vineyard called Apalta.
We went there because it was very interesting. There were French vines, but before the phylloxera crisis.
Yeah.
That were very influenced by this point, because this is those vines are coming from France, so we know how to produce and we know how to work them. That was a big part of the influence there. That was very interesting.
So Chile is a little bit like a part of France from the 19th century and
Before
still existing. And why pre-phylloxera vines are so important for us is because it's really, they can get older than when it's grafted. And the older the vines are, the better complexity we get from them, because the roots are going deep into the soil and can reflect the personality of the soil into the wine. So we get wines with a very specific and unique personality from the characteristic of the soil, and that is really something very different than when you have grafted vines. At Lapostolle we have 3 vineyards in different parts of Chile. And that the idea, the concept is to have the right place for the varietal. And so we own a vineyard in Casablanca, which is for the Chardonnay, which is near the coastal. And why? Because it's a little bit, we receive even more the influence of the breeze coming from the Pacific Ocean. And so we have cooler climate, even cooler climate. And then I love this place because it's rolling hills and it's granite, only granite. And we planted this vineyard in '96. And so now after we're really starting to get the roots going down into the granite, because it's 18 years now. And so we are having really, it's a lot of ruby grapefruit flavors, and at the same time also we have a little bit of almond, but not too much, complexity and freshness at the same time. I think that the wine shows by itself, because we have been able to get consistency in the ratings. We have 10 years in a row with 90 plus ratings, and so we put it on the back label so that the consumer can realize the consistency of the 90 plus ratings that we get.
Each year we know a bit better about the way to integrate the oak and the wine.
Yeah, because
so we go after subtlety.
We didn't want to have a big, fat, oaky Chardonnay. What I wanted is to have a Chardonnay with elegance, fruits, but fruity, but with a touch of French elegance.
Kind of finesse that you want to have.
Yeah. So we realized little by little that we need to ferment in French barrels but 50%. And 50% are fermented and aged in stainless steel vats so that we keep the fruit and the freshness and the purity as well. But with the French oak, we get some very interesting complexity. And so the balance is very nice.
Speak about the
Canto. So we call it Canto de Apalta. It's a blend. It's a blend of very good parcels that we have. And you know that we have a wine that we call Clos Apalta. And we started Clos Apalta in 1997, our first vintage, and it's a blend. And we were to reflect really the Apalta vineyard that we own, and we are very lucky because we have different varietal with very old vines planted there. And we have Carmenère, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon. And so Clos Apalta, we were really proud because Clos Apalta was awarded as being the #1 wine of the year with the Wine Spectator worldwide. So that was something where Cyril and I, we said, okay, finally we had the intuition with this vineyard when we visited and walked in the vineyard in '93, but finally we were right, because when we did this blend, it all came together, it all blended in to make that the blend. And then, but so Clos Apalta is our top. And then finally we said, why don't we also, because we are French and we love as well the blends, and so we said, why don't we produce a blend, maybe a little bit more approachable, but which will reflect still the philosophy of blending like Clos Apalta. And so here we are with Canto, and this is why we call it Canto de Apalta, because it's a little bit our baby Apalta, because it reflects that philosophy of blending. We are now certified organic and biodynamic with our Cuvée Alexandre wines. And that was to really preserve the integrity of the vineyards that we own. And that was very important for us. And why? Because in Burgundy they can do that with not such an easy climate. So I told my team, we can do that in Chile, and we have to do that to preserve those pre-phylloxera vines. And then little by little we made some trials, and now we are certified organic and biodynamic. Alors, cheers.
Salud.
Yes.
Salud.
Salud.
Too bad for you, you don't have a drink.